Welcome to the Exit Rich podcast, where the leading authority on buying, selling, fixing, and growing companies, Michelle Seiler Tucker, is dedicated to helping you find the path to retire rich and move on to your next adventure by exiting your business for the desired dream price you deserve. Get ready to exit rich with your host, Michelle Seiler Tucker.
Hi, and welcome to another episode of Exit Rich. You know this because you've been listening to me for years and years and years. We always deliver valuable content. We always give you those golden nuggets that you need to really catapult, those golden nuggets that you really need to take your business to the next level. And that's what we're going to do today. You're used to me doing solos. You're used to me interviewing all the Shark Tank guests. But today I have a really special guest on. Why is she so special? Well, she was my client. And now she's one of my good friends. And I love it when your clients become your friends. So today we have Amy Powell. Amy Powell was a founder of Whip Salon. She was a founder and CEO of Whip Salon. I say what? Was? Yes, because she had a huge exit, my friends. Today's going to be a special episode. You're going to learn from a seller what it's like to come into an industry with zero experience, grow that business to over 6 locations, build the operations, build the teams, build all the proprietary assets so she could exit rich. Welcome to the show, Amy.
Thank you so much for having me, Michelle. I'm so happy to be here and to see you again.
It's a pleasure to have you. The sale was so successful. Amy came to New Orleans to meet with us, and not only did she meet with us, picked her up in a limo, went to dinner, showed her all of New Orleans. And Amy's from Connecticut. So, Amy, tell us a little bit about your story. Real quick, what's your background? How did you decide to get into the salon space? Because you had zero experience, and most salon owners grow up in the business. They're hairdressers, cosmetologists, etc. They typically have zero experience. So tell us your story.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I did have zero experience, and it was a bit of a circuitous start for me. It was my second entrepreneurial venture. Whip Salon was. My first entrepreneurial then was with spin studios, actually, and the reason I decided to do that was because my kids were young. I had been in like financial marketing most of my career, and I really wanted to do something that was like going to free up my time a bit, right? So I saw that there was an opportunity to open a spin studio in my town, and I just did it as a licensee. Okay. So I had a licensor, and that was great because it kind of gave me the confidence to really be an entrepreneur because I had someone I could ask the burning questions to, and I had just that little bit extra support, even though it was like my own money and it was still very terrifying. Starting as a licensee was great for me because it really gave me a lot of confidence, but it also taught me that I'm not very good as a licensee because I had a lot of ideas and enthusiasm, and I wanted to take the brand in all these different directions. And my licensor was like, could you just like calm down and stay in your box and stop it with all these ideas? So, I started getting kind of frustrated and restless, even on that first, time I was doing it,
Well, let's stop there real quick because there's a lot
Yeah.
to unpack, and I want my
Yeah.
listeners to be able to follow. So, my background before mergers and acquisitions, buying, selling, and fixing and growing companies was franchise development, franchise sales, and franchise development. And I also did licensee opportunities, license sales,
Okay.
etc. I would take equity in all their companies. Franchising in the license model is a really good business model if you have never owned a business before. And kind of like Amy said, it was good because I had that, I had somebody, she has a support team, right?
Mhm.
And so it's good because you're in business by yourself, but not for yourself, which makes it even better. However, if you're a true entrepreneur, which Amy didn't know she was from the beginning, then it does become difficult because then you're going to start to do this because Amy's very creative. She's got great ideas. She's very intelligent. She's going to come up with all these ways to improve the systems, to make the business better, to grow the company. And
Right.
franchising and licensing doesn't always allow for that. So when you go to buy a franchise or a licensing, you really need to take inventory of what your skill sets are. And are you a person that butts heads? Are you creative? or are you the one that wants to do it your way? If so, don't get into licensing and franchising. So I just
Yeah.
wanted to set that clear for the listeners, Amy. Go ahead.
I think that that's a great point, but I didn't really, know that. I'd always kind of wanted to do something entrepreneurial, and I felt like this was a great like way to start.
It was a
And
good
while
stepping stone for you,
it was
it
the
helped
perfect
you
stepping stone.
identify what you want and what you're good at, and
Yeah,
you wanna be your own boss.
it did. It gave me the confidence, and actually, I was a little bit like frustrated and maybe a little bored with that first one because I started looking next door to my spin studio where there was a hair salon, and I was thinking, man, if I could take over that hair salon, all my riders would go in there and get blowouts, and I'd be killing it. Because we had like
Which is
salon.
strategic. It is strategic.
Yeah. Yeah, so I mean, I actually, because dry bar was on the rise at the time, and I was like, "Well, I could do a blow dry bar, that'd be kinda cool." And so I did put together the Whip Salon business plan while I still had the spin studios. I approached my landlord, I asked him like, "Hey, are those guys on the way out?" And, I tried to take over that space, but it didn't work out, so I set it aside. I focused on the spin studios for a couple of years, and actually what happened there was that it did kind of come to a head eventually. We just realized we weren't compatible because I wanted to take the brand in so many different ways, and they were just like, it was contentious, and so eventually we sold the spin studios back to them, and we had a fantastic exit, and that gave me a taste for what I wanted next. I was like, "Okay, this was great." It was a successful exit, and next time I wanna do that with my own brand. And so that kind of set the playing field for me in my next move.
So that makes sense. Okay, so you were right next door to a hair salon. You're like, "Hair salons, why not?" But did you
Yep.
ever think, "I've never done hair before. I've never done cosmetology before. I've never been an esthetician. What makes me qualified to own a hair salon?"
I never thought about that once. I mean, people would certainly ask me that, but I didn't know anything about the spin studio business either, and it was really fun getting under the hood of it and learning everything about it. And I thought, how hard can it be? But now looking back, I realized that is insane a little bit. I'm a little afraid for myself, like just jumping into the hair and beauty business industry, like because it's very complex and there is a lot to it. And I had
A lot
a
more than a spin studio for sure.
Oh my gosh, I had no idea, and it was kinda good that I was kind of, like, went in blindly. Basically what happened was I did assess my market after I exited the spin business, and I realized that we really needed this in our town because we're right outside of New York City, and I wanted to create something for this market that was, like, trendy, but warm and friendly, and I felt those 2 things could coexist. And I really knew that we needed, like, a salon with a vibe in our town, and I knew the market, and so I felt confident about it. So even though I had a lot to learn, I knew that ultimately, if I persevered, I'd get there, and that's really what I spent the first year doing, is really
Yeah.
honing the business and understanding how it all works.
Yeah, for my entrepreneurs, you don't have to know an industry to go in and start in that industry, to own a business in that industry, to run that industry. You need to do your due diligence, you need to do your market research, and you need to really understand what you're getting into. But most importantly, will this market support the industry that you're wanting to go into, like a hair salon? So I think
Yep.
that was great. What year did you open, Amy?
2016.
Okay, so you open
Yeah.
with 1 salon, then you
Yeah.
grow to 6 locations.
Yeah.
When was it that Amy said, "Okay, I've got this under control,
Mhm.
got a great system, great team in
Mhm.
place, great operations, great proprietary assets."
Mhm.
Does Amy think about exiting?
Exiting? I mean, I well, I thought about that. I knew that that was something I was going to do in a finite period of time. I knew I wasn't gonna do it
So
forever.
so
So
you
so
knew
I
that going into the salon industry, that you were going to build this business to exit one day?
Yes, I did, for sure.
Okay, because that's the biggest mistake the business owners make. 8 out of 10 businesses will never sell. There's 30.4 million businesses in the United States. 40% will be up for sale at any given time. 8 out of 10 will never sell. Why? Because a business owner hasn't built a sustainable, scalable business that runs without them, that doesn't have owner dependency, and most importantly, built on a solid foundation. So when I think about selling, it's usually a catastrophic event has occurred or burnout or some type of issue that forces them into a sell, and that's why the
Yep,
business typically won't sell, so they end up closing their doors or even worse, filing bankruptcy. So Amy thought about this going into an industry, building the solid foundation, and boy, does she. She has great operation systems, great processes, great teams, great proprietary assets. what am I naming here? The 6 Ps in Exit
Yes, you
Rich.
are. Yes, you are, systematically.
So go
Well,
ahead, Amy.
I do have to say, like, I was a big believer in the E-Myth, in Michael Gerber's E-Myth,
Yes.
book, so,
I
I
know
kind of
Michael Gerber very well. He's a friend of mine.
oh, that's amazing. I mean, I just took that to heart, and so I wanted to build a brand and a company and something that could thrive without me, without, like, losing my mind and having to spend every minute there, and so that was always at the forefront, that I wanted that balance, and so I think that helped guide me from the beginning.
Okay. And so you went into this business saying, I'm going to exit it one day.
Mhm,
But did you ever go into it and plan out what I call the Seiler Tucker GPS exit model, which is number one, what's your exit price? What do you want to sell the business for? It's your destination. Did
mhm.
you ever go into it with knowing your destination and say, I'm going to sell for this one day?
No, I didn't have that all the way, synthesized. I just knew that I wanted to build something that was valuable enough that I could sell it.
Yeah. So she did better than 99% of business owners do. Because, like I said, most business owners will wake up and say, I want to sell my business. And guess what? It's trending downward. It's about to go out of business. It's not sellable. It's certainly not sellable for the price tag that owners need to
Yeah.
retire on or enter the next phase of their life. So I want
Mhm.
all entrepreneurs to really think about this and say, okay, what's my destination? What do I want to sell my company for? Pick a number. You know what clients tell me, Amy? Well, gosh, I don't know. I'm gonna pick 5 million, but maybe I want to sell for more. Well, it's not written in stone, but
Right.
just pick a number. Then you want to know what's your current evaluation, what's your business worth today, and what's your time frame. So if you want to
Mhm.
sell for 5 million, you're worth 2 million. Want to sell in 3 years? Let's get going.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So you started in 2016. Your exit was in 26.
Yeah, 10 years.
10 years
Exactly.
exit. Okay. And was that the right time frame for you? Because I know
Just
that you started earlier than with me. And
yeah, I did. I
so
had a couple, you know,
let
uh
let let's go backwards a little quick because I wanna now talk about the 6 Ps.
Mhm.
So when I said Amy really built a solid foundation, let's go through that. So number 1 is people. Amy,
Yeah.
tell me about your people. You
Well,
had a
I
great
mean,
team.
I really had the best team. They really were the best. And it was really about, like, figuring out what the brand stood for and who we were trying to attract, so that we had a very solid way of recruitment and hiring and making sure we had the right people that fit, like, the prototype of what we were looking for and who would thrive in that environment and succeed in the environment. I think having that blueprint really helped us attract the right people and keep the right people.
So she figured out who her patrons was gonna be, which is a 5th P in the Seller Tucker 6 Ps, in order to attract who her team should be.
Mhm.
And you had, correct me if I'm wrong, over 60 W-2s?
Oh, yeah, well, I mean, at one point, about 100, but yeah, we ended up, like, 70, 75, about
So at one
75.
point, they had 100 W-2s. They narrowed that down to get to the cream of the crop, and they
Yep.
had a little over 70 W-2s. One of the most important things that they did with their people was what, Amy? They had employment agreements in place.
Oh, yeah.
They had non-competes in
Yes,
place.
the
They
non-compete.
had non-competes, and they had employment agreements in place.
Yeah, we did, yep.
Also, one thing that I love that they did is that they had management teams at every single location, and Amy also got a director that would
Mhm.
oversee all 6 locations because 4 of them were in Connecticut and the other 2 were in South Carolina. So, Amy, you had this great director that you hired, and so you
Yes.
don't have to be everywhere at once. You could pretty
Mhm.
much operate the business from anywhere and not to
Yep.
be hands-on. The business was no longer dependent upon you.
That's absolutely correct, and, that was by design, and what really cracked me up? I was down in Hilton Head. I would go down there periodically, check in on the team. I will definitely do FaceTime, with them from when I was in town, and one time, someone there told me, like, "Oh, the impression is that you just kind of swan into town, and then you just go to the beach." And that just really made me chuckle because, like, yeah, that's what I'm designing. That's exactly right, and I'm sure that was meant as, like, some kind of a slight, but I was like, "Wow, I really nailed it. That's exactly what I wanted to
Well, then
do." So
that's what business owners should do. We all go into business to have better quality of life and
exactly.
financial freedom. But yet many business owners get stuck and working in their business instead of working on it, creating a glorified job that they go to work at every day versus a business that actually works for them. So Amy didn't create that. She had over 70 W-2s. She had a great management team. She put a director in place so she could work a lot less. The reason we were able to sell her business is because it did not have owner dependency.
Correct. That's
And
correct.
so her people, the other thing I liked is the senior people, all the senior employees. Now, correct me if I get this wrong, Amy. All the senior employees would bring in the newbies and kind of really talk amongst each other, saying, is this person a good fit? Is this a good culture fit? Is this going to work out? How do we, train them up or train them out? Right.
Yeah, that's
You had a
right.
great culture.
Yeah, excellent culture. Yeah, it was great because I think that mission statement really did a lot for us. We had it like on the wall. Everybody knew what we were aiming for.
What was
It
the
was
mission statement?
talent, positivity, coachability, teamwork, and always bringing your best self to work every day. There's just those 5 elements. And you can fake that in an interview as someone, but you can't fake it after the first 30 days. So we had 30 days, probationary period for anyone that joined us. And, if you weren't like having those qualities that you said you did, then it would appear very queer and they very obviously and very quickly, and we would just manage them out. So
Yeah, and I think that's a great process. And your mission doesn't have to be paragraphs after paragraphs. It should be 3 to 5 bullet statements, like Amy just said. Boom, 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 boom. That's your mission
absolutely.
statement. All right. So she had the people nailed. Now let's talk about products. In business, you need to always ask yourself, do I have an Amazon? I'm at the top of my industry. Or do I have a Toys R Us? I'm about to go out of business. 'Cause you're either growing or dying, right, Amy? There's really no in between.
That's
So
absolutely
talk
right.
to us
Yeah.
a little bit about your products because to me, you were on the cutting edge. You were growing and growing and growing year over year over year over year. You had substantial growth and you have multiple products, multiple congruent revenue streams, including your own private line. I'm
Yep.
sorry, I'm talking for you. Go ahead.
No, you're absolutely right. Like, and I mean, I think products is like it's not just products, like it's products and services, don't you think? Like because
Yeah,
what we always try to do is to
it
keep
is
it really
products and services. You are
right.
correct.
And so, like, for me, it was always about, like, what's the latest service? What's happening? Like, keeping tabs on what's happening in the beauty industry to make sure that our clients are getting what is the very latest and greatest in the beauty world. And I think one of the greatest, things that one of my, staff members said to me after I sold was like, what I really always liked about you is that you were always keeping it so fresh, and you were always keeping things, like, cutting edge." And that was what the brand was representing, and that was, like, a big like, I was so happy to hear that. I was like, that we'd achieved that. So if it's whether it's like a new blowout trend, or hair extensions or a product line, just trying to deliver whatever's the freshest thing, to the markets. That's really
Okay.
where we're focused.
And what Amy is saying is what I always say. The things that kills businesses the most than anything else, even more than competition. It's not even really competition that kills a business, it's complacency that kills a business. I always say lack of aim is what kills businesses.
Mhm.
Aim. Always innovate and market.
I'll
So
remember that
Amy
one.
did a really good job of that. What's that?
I'll remember that one. I like that. AIM.
Aim.
Yeah.
And that's Michelle Seiler Tucker quote. But
That's my
but
nickname too.
always yeah, you gotta innovate because you're either growing or dying. So,
Mhm.
especially in the hair industry, you must innovate. So, products are very important because you want to make sure you have a multitude of ways you get paid. Amy
Mhm.
gets paid off of services. She had some spa services as well. In addition to that, she also had products, not just other people's products, but she also created her own product. So
Yep,
that's a
that's right.
proprietary asset that she had. So you get into business. When you're in business, ask yourself 3 questions. I want you to ask yourself 3 questions. Number 1, what business are we in? Amazon did this a long time ago. Amazon said, we're in the book sales business. We distribute books. Number 2, what's your superpower? Number 3, what business should we be in?
Mm,
Amazon said, we're in book retailer business. Number 2, our superpower is distribution. What business should we be in? Distribution for everybody all over the world.
of that.
And Amy did that. All
Oh,
right, let's
Lord.
move to processes because I think one of Amy's superpowers is operations.
Okay. Oh, well, so for our processes, we had SOPs for everything from day one. And what I mean
Standing
by
operating procedures, y'all.
standard operating procedures, that's right. And that was like the secret sauce, honestly. Because I never wanted to reinvent the wheel. I never wanted to, talk about the same thing twice. Like anytime something would crop up, I'd be like, SOP, let's get a SOP on that. SOP, SOP. And then we put it in all into a book, which was our essentials book for all the systems that we did. And if we had a new hire, over to the book. It was always so easy to see what we stood for because we were all aligned across the board because everything had been written down. And that was
Yeah.
so fundamental to delivering the same quality no matter what location you're in. So I think that really was a good guiding light for us. Ours.
1,000%. And you heard her say this was an essential. Of all the P's, everybody asks me, Michelle, what's the number one P? Well, that's very difficult to answer. But, I mean, you can't have a business without people, and you can't have people without processes because you don't want the employees to run the business. You need the processes to run the employees. And when you go to correct an employee's behavior, it's not personal because you're pointing to that SOP. You're pointing to that policy and procedure. You're having them read it. It's not
Mhm.
coming from a
Yeah.
boss to the employee as personal criticism. It's coming from that policy. And then what I loved is she put in her book of essentials. What we call it is a wow and unwow book. So a wow, Amy, and you did this over and over and over again in your business, is every time you wow a client, hey, they come in, maybe somebody messed up. There's always going to be mistakes in business. No business is perfect. Even
Right.
with AI, there's going to be a lot of mistakes in business. And so the wow book is anything you did to correct that unwow. So you go in, somebody messes up on hair, but then you give them a product, you give them the next visit, you do something.
Mhm.
That unwow becomes a wow. Every wow in your business brings you up that branding ladder, and every unwow brings you down that branding ladder. I would like to say that Whip Salon, Amy, had over a 98% rating on Google out of how many patrons?
Yeah, we had over 2,000 Google reviews and a 4.9 rating across the board.
4.9. I said 98%.
I know what you meant.
4.9. Yeah. I think the
Good.
listeners do too. But
That's
that's
high.
almost unheard of in a retail business, especially hair salons. So I'm
Yeah.
kind of getting a little ahead of myself here, but the book of wow and the book of unwows is very important. And every unwow should bring you to an SOP, which Amy said she's been doing in her company. So Amy, out of the three P's, nailed it. She had the people, she had multiple congruent revenue streams, she was on the cutting edge, she was keeping up with the trends, she had her processes buttoned up. The other P, which I call the most valuable P, because it can bring you from a 3 multiple to a 5 to 7, even higher, is proprietary assets. Tell me about your proprietary assets, Amy.
So proprietary assets were really the brand and everything that we did that was kind of like, I won't say differently, but like that was like very whip centric. So, making sure that we had a sequence of service that was echoed in every location end to end and that was systematized. I feel like that was something that not other hair salons were nailing necessarily. So that you're getting the same exact 3-minute scalp massage in the same way every single time.
At
Things
every single location.
at every single location. Yeah.
And every
So we
location had the same look and feel.
Well, every location had common elements, but I wouldn't say it's like a Starbucks. Like if you're in Tokyo and New York, it's going to look the same. You still think you're in Starbucks. It's more like we would lean into whatever great properties that space had. And then we'd have some common whip elements that would always be there. So you would know that you were, but it was more of like a
And the
feeling and a
services
scale.
were the same. Like, if you
Yeah, the
go whip
services.
in Connecticut versus South Carolina, you're gonna get the same experience.
They're gonna get the same experience, and I think there's this warmth because of the way that we hire people and the way that we do things that you could just feel because we'd have a lot of clients that went from Connecticut to Hilton Head, and they would say, I feel like I'm at Whip, they get it. Even though they looked vastly different, they were just conducted the same way. And so that really worked, really pulled through.
Yeah. So the other proprietary assets that you had is number one, they had a federal trademark. They were very well branded. They had been in business for over 10 years. They were developing software, still in the development of that. That they still have license to and rights to, that they still have
Hmm.
rights to, proprietary software in their industry. So they had a lot of proprietary assets. And proprietary is not just trademarks and contracts and all this stuff. It's also what she talked about, her processes, her systems, the way
Hmm.
that they do things, the way that you can go from one whip salon to another one, to another one, to another one, and get the same experience. Those are proprietary assets. And
Yes.
so now let's talk about patrons. This is your customer base.
Yeah, I that was fantastic. I mean, we were so lucky to start we started in Ridgefield, Connecticut, and we got a really fierce following there. But it's really down to the stylists. They're just so good at what they did and very teamwork oriented. So our clients were really Whip clients. And they loved the name. It resonated with them. I think that's part of it. We'd have ladies of all ages coming in like, I'm ready to get whipped, and it's just cute. They like that. They like saying that.
It
But
was a good brand, and it was
yeah,
just yeah, it's a good
our
brand.
our our team, like, if someone's going on vacation or is out for a bit, you can go to someone else in the salon. It's a Whip client. We want them to come to Whip, not like you're away, so you have to wait for you to get back, or even like go to a different salon down the street. We want them to come back to Whip. And I think that us all, buying into that and knowing that we're like a team, that really helped.
Yeah. Yeah, and one thing that I didn't talk about in proprietary assets, and I need everybody to hear this because it's things that most people don't think about. The other proprietary asset is your social media. It's your videos, it's your content. Content is still queen and king.
Hmm.
It's your ratings. Your like she said, she had a 4.9 rating out of 2,000. When I go look at most salons, they're lucky to have a 2, 3, or a 4. Like a very low rating. And so your social content, Amy was really good and her team was good at developing all these different videos on TikTok, Instagram, all over social media that really drew traffic and probably even helped you to get stylist.
Absolutely, it did. And I really think we're like at a time where it's just incredible to have that. Because like in 2016, it was kind of still up and coming. We were one
Yeah.
of the first to, of course, embrace Instagram, but now it's like people use Instagram to search. And so I'm always telling the team, and we would hire like-minded people that were, on the top of their game, creating content, and it would help get clients in their chair. And at the end, like, right before I sold, I would say most of our clients would come through Instagram because they discover the stylist through hashtags, through the great content that we were producing, and they would see that we were on top of our game and that we were active. And yeah, our clients, would come through that.
Bam. That's a golden nugget that she just dropped. And I don't know if everybody picked it up and caught it. A lot of people think when I have to recruit, I gotta go to Indeed, I gotta go to Zip, I gotta go to these job boards, or a lot of people recruit from LinkedIn. And some industries you have to recruit from LinkedIn. But in her industry, in the service industry, in the B2C, Instagram is a perfect way to go recruit and see what somebody's already doing out there for content, social media, because now you know you have an A player. If you got somebody up there really producing quality content that's a hairstylist, you know you have an A player
Yep.
versus a B or C player, right?
Hmm.
And so that was
100%.
a huge golden nugget I want everybody to take note of.
Yep. It's great. Great point.
Okay, so back to we talked about patrons. Amy really has Whip Salon. She's created brand loyalty, and most they have a really high retention rate. What would you say that retention rate was, Amy?
Oh, I mean, definitely over 50%. I mean, we're always striving for like closer to 70. It depends on, but I would say as an average, certainly over 50%. But like some of our top stylists between 70 to 90%, you know.
Yeah, but on customers, we're talking about stylists. On customers, which are patrons, what is your retention rate?
No, that is the patron retention rate for a stylist. we would look at all the retention rates by stylist and see
Okay,
how
so the
they
retention
perform.
rate per stylist is
Yes.
50% or above.
Yeah,
Okay.
50% or above. Yeah, that's what
And
we're
that's
like.
good in your industry?
That's excellent. Yeah, yeah. Because you have to remember, you're looking at like a rolling period of time of 3 to 6 months. Some people are getting haircuts more regularly. If you have long hair, it might be coming back a couple times a year. If you are doing, highlights and you only need, or a balayage and it grows out over 4 to 6 months, you might not come back. Then you have people that are getting roots done, like me, that are there like, every couple of weeks. So, yeah, it depends on the client and the nature of the clients that are in your area,
Got it.
and kind of things they're going to. But it was always very high, and it really worked for us. We definitely had a fierce following from clients, loyal
So
clients.
so now we're gonna move into the 6P. And a 6P is the reason everybody's in business.
Yep.
Nobody's in business to fail. Nobody's in business to lose money.
Profit,
Nobody's in
baby.
business to file bankruptcy. That last P is called what, Amy? What's the most
Profit,
important?
baby.
Profit, baby. Profit, baby.
Yeah.
Profit, baby.
Yeah, yeah.
And I've looked at a lot of different salons, evaluated salons, sold salons. I'm pretty big in the industry and evaluated a lot of businesses. Just because your revenue is multi-million-dollar revenue doesn't mean you're profitable, my friends.
That's
And
right.
here's what I say about profits. Lack of profits is never, ever, ever the problem. It is the symptom of not having the other 5 Ps as part of your solid foundation. If you don't have the right people in place, especially in this industry, you're gonna lose stylists, you're gonna lose clients like that, you're gonna lose
Yeah,
profits. If
they're
you don't have
intertwined.
multiple
Yeah.
absolutely, if you don't have multiple ways that you get paid, then you're going to lose profits.
Yep.
Let's stop pause right there. How did you do during COVID and how did you survive?
COVID was tough. In COVID in Connecticut, where I had 3 salons at the time, I had it was, just opened my first franchise. Okay, so I did open my first 2 units, and then I created an
Proprietary
FTP.
assets. She had an FDD agreement, franchise disclosure agreement. Sorry to
No,
interrupt, Amy, but
that's
that's
correct.
another
No, you're right.
proprietary asset.
And it was just kind of terrifying because, everything just turned overnight and the beauty industry was hit super hard because, it's a very like one-on-one personalized service. So we were closed for 3 months by the government mandate and, we still had to pay our rent. And I was just like, what am I doing with my life? And when we had to reopen, it was just so much. I mean, we had to like take people's temperature before they came through the door, follow all these crazy things, wear all these gloves and
Well,
masks.
how were you generating a profit when you guys were closed?
No, there was no way to do it. It's just you're closed and that's that.
So,
So
but you
that
kept your employees? You were able to keep your stylists?
yeah, I mean, yeah, everybody was able to just kind of sit tight and we reopened, but I did have like a small walkout in one of my locations and I was just like, what am I doing? I'm like regrouping. This is like I didn't sign up for this and I was like, right before COVID, I had like all these irons in the fire for franchising and I was like I was going to grow it big through franchising. And then after that, I was just like I could barely just keep the doors open and just keep my head above water and I don't know. I just kind of like took a step back and I was like maybe this isn't, for me and I
You did what
actually
all entrepreneurs do, which most entrepreneurs will quit 3 feet from gold. There's a book out there that I highly encourage everybody to read called 3 Feet from Gold.
okay, writing
And
it
it's
down.
based on a true story
Okay.
of pioneers digging for gold. She didn't quit. She questioned herself, but she
Did it
didn't
quick.
quit. Go ahead.
But I will say that I went as far as to hire my first broker to try and exit in 2020, after back of
So
20.
before you get into that, let me finish these P's. So lack of profits is never the problem. It's a symptom of not having the right team in place,
Yes.
not having multiple products because you saw restaurants went out of business during COVID because they had one way they got paid. Whereas other restaurants got very creative and started YouTube shows where they would say, okay, buy these baskets. What level do you want? 100 all the way up to
Yep.
600, which included the food in the baskets. And then they would have cooking shows, wine tasting shows, and all of that. So you got to have multiple ways you get paid. If she didn't have great processes, she'd never have the employee retention that she did. If you don't have the products, if you don't have the processes in place, you're losing money. If you haven't protected your IP, you're losing money. If you don't have customer retention, you're losing money. Do you see why profits is never, ever the problem? It's a symptom of.
Yes.
And I will tell you, she had one of the highest profit margins in the industry, and that's because everything else was so buttoned up. All right, let's get into that exit conversation.
Yes. And so during COVID, I did talk to a broker and like after COVID, just kind of regrouping. And I thought like, maybe I should think about it, because it was a lot. Obviously, COVID was a lot for everybody. But what happened during that time, Michelle, is that the person that I hired did not deliver. I did not see not even one viable purchaser, not one buyer in 12 months of the
Not
contract.
one buyer in 12 months.
No. So it was just a
Let's
joke.
let's let's break this down a little bit. How did you how did you find a broker and what were their credentials? Because I really want entrepreneurs to understand all brokers are not created equal, like all attorneys and doctors and hairdressers are not created equal. What credentials do they have? How did you find them?
I was talking to someone else that I was like trying to find a mentor in the industry, like someone to help me like not be feeling defeated. And I reached out to this guy that someone kind of like told me could be helpful. And he referred me to this broker after I was like, I'm not sure I want to do this, whatever. And so it was a referral. And so
Okay.
I trusted it because it was a referral. And I did look at a couple other options, but I don't know. It seemed like it was going to
What
be a good fit.
credentials did
Yeah,
this
he didn't
person
do
have?
anything. Well,
What credentials?
other than that, he's a broker supposedly and has sold other businesses and talked a good talk. No, I don't know. Look, here's the good news. The fact that he was not successful is great because actually, like when I was, it was kind of in the
It was
background. Like,
great for you, but it's not great for a lot of people to hire a
no,
broker and then not be
no, but
successful
I'm
over a
trying to
year.
say that. No, I know, but like it ended up being a good thing because I just kind of forgot about him because he never brought anybody to me and I got like back into it and like recovered from COVID. And then the next thing you know, I started growing again and I decided, you know what? I'm not going to do FDDs. I'm not going to do franchising. I'm going to grow through corporate growth because I can rely on
I'm gonna
me.
become really
I know I'm
focused.
going to follow through. So I just went back to that.
So you
And that
went
was
back to
good.
the basics and you went back to your core focus,
Yeah,
which is
exactly.
growing corporate stores because you know how to do it.
100%. Yep.
Okay. And then when did you decide and you were contacted by a private equity group too, so let's talk
Yeah.
about that real quick.
Yeah, so a couple years later, I was back in the groove. I think I had four locations at that time. And they seemed interested and they kind of contacted me out of the blue again through someone I'd known. So I kind of trusted the process. Kind of 4 to 5 months of really being seriously strung along, a lot of big numbers tossed around, how they were going to take it, how they're going to grow. They wanted us to be a part of it. They didn't want us to be a part of it. They were going to pay us all this money. And then they were like, yeah, but like first we're gonna sign an agreement and you'll get it in like 12 months, but not a penny at first. So I was like, so I'm gonna sell
So
you my
no
business.
money down?
No money down. I'm gonna sell you my
Okay.
business. I'm not gonna have any income. Okay. And who would do that? So I was just like,
So
had
you're
this,
going to sell the business with no money down. I gotta repeat this because this is so imperative for entrepreneurs to hear. You're going to sell your business, your life's work that you built, and you're gonna get no money down and no income for a year.
yeah. And they were like, this is how it's done, that was it. And I was like, okay, time out. No, this is not how it's done. It's certainly not how I'm going to do it. And so we walked away. Best thing I ever did because once again, I recommitted to the cause and I ended up opening 2 more units that year because I was so fired up. I was like, I don't need these guys. I'm going to keep going.
Yeah.
And so that's how
So let
I got.
me just tell you guys a few things real quick. When you're going to interview a broker, you want to know how long they've been in business. You want to know if they're the owner. If they are the owner, they're going to be working on your business. You want to know who spends the advertising budget. Because if it's a broker in a firm, they have no control how the money gets spent. So you want to talk to the owner too and make sure that there's going to be enough money targeted for your campaigns to sell your company. You want to know how much experience that owner or broker has. How long have they been in the industry? You want to know how many businesses they've actually sold. You want to know not only how many LOIs or offers they've written, but how many have they actually closed, got to the closing table. and then do they have any specific industry experience? It's not as important as everything else. But those are the things. And I'm here to tell you, if you got a private equity company that calls you and they have no businesses in their portfolio, this is typically called search funds or a private equity startup want to be that has no businesses in their portfolio. Walk away from startup. Walk away. Walk away. Don't walk away. Run, Forrest, run.
Mm,
From any private equity groups that have nothing in
amen.
their portfolio, and run, Forrest, run from a search fund because they have no money. And there's Cody Sanchez out there and all these other, I don't know what you call them, entrepreneurs. Anyway, you got Cody Sanchez, you got all these other people telling consumers how to buy businesses without any money down. Run, Forrest, run. You have to have money down. You have to have skin in the game. You
Yep.
cannot take a deal like that. She could have lost everything.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Everything, because on that seller's note, there probably was no PG, which is a personal guarantee.
Yeah.
She's getting no income. She would
Mhm.
have no right. If you're going to do seller financing, we get PGs. We make sure that there's a lien on Whip Salon. We make sure there's a lien on all the proprietary assets, all the domain names, everything. So you got to run, Forrest, run. Do your due diligence before selecting an M&A advisor. And don't just grab a broker off the street. This broker probably sold coffee shops and very small businesses. You want to look for somebody that's small to mid-size M&A advisory. So
Mhm.
go ahead, Amy.
Well, after that, like I said, I recommitted to, I really always loved running Whip. It was very fun, it was my baby and I love doing it. But then actually enter Michelle. Michelle enters the chat because
Okay, before we get to Michelle,
yeah,
you just
I'm
said
excited
another
to talk
golden
about
nugget.
Michelle.
You keep dropping all these golden nuggets. I got to pause. There's a lot to unpack
Go on.
here. So she just dropped a bombshell. It's my baby. Every owner tells me, this is my baby. My business is my baby. No, it's not. Your baby are your kids at home. Your baby is your friends, your husband, your life. Your business is your most valuable asset. It is not your baby. I need you to detach from your baby. Because everybody says, it's my baby. It's worth $10 million. No, it's not. It's worth what the buyer's
I
willing
know.
to pay for it. And it's my job to tell you, your baby's not as pretty as you think it is. Remember the Steinfeld episode when
Yep.
Elaine looked at the baby and like, oh my God, this is the ugliest baby ever.
Yeah.
It is not your baby. Detach. It's your most valuable asset. Even though Amy said it's my baby, Amy still had the wherewithal to know I'm not going to do this forever. Let me build a sustainable, scalable business that can run without me that will sell one day when I'm ready. Because when you business owners tell me you're never going to sell your business, wrong.
Right.
Because there
Abs-
are events that will drive you to selling the business and you won't get the value you want. Amy got more than what she wanted. Now here comes Michelle. Go ahead, Amy. I had to make that clear for the owners.
Oh, well, thank you. I'm not, and it's funny because I don't usually use that term. I agree that language is important, and I just meant it was something that I'd created,
Of course.
from inception.
But you weren't
But yes, I'm
attached to
happy to
it like
tell.
most you were not as
Which
emotionally attached to WHIP like most business owners are attached to their business. You viewed
oh
it as a
yeah, just
valuable asset that's going to get you from here
yes.
to there.
100%. Yeah, I did. And yeah, so actually, so as I was saying, Michelle enters the chat. An interesting way, she reached out her team, or you reached out to me through LinkedIn.
Um,
And, I'm not like a big LinkedIn power user. I like never go on LinkedIn. That's why this is so tenuous. It makes me scared. And thank God I went on to LinkedIn for whatever reason I did that day. And she was in my DMs and was like, hey, have you ever thought about selling? And so I looked up Michelle and I was like, man, this lady seems like the real deal. Wow. Like, she's sold salons before. So
she wrote a book.
I wrote a pretty amazing book, which I read immediately. And then I set up a meeting with her and I'll never forget that meeting. And I know you won't either, Michelle, because I was having a day. It was just like one of those days where there was like some issues happening. Like when you have a brick and mortar, things are always breaking or, it's just kind of whack-a-mole sometimes, especially with 6 brick and mortar locations. And I was feeling a little bit defeated that day, I guess. Anyway, I was in my car. I met
But
with
you
her.
also
I was
felt a little
yes.
Go ahead, Amy. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was like, "Go ahead, impress me," because I've been burned, by these first 2 goes at this, and I was like, "What is this lady gonna tell me? What is she gonna tell me?" And it was, like, the most miraculous meeting because everything you said, Michelle, honestly, was like, "Okay, I get that," and, you kind of, like, totally turned me around, like, to, like, 180. I was, like, completely bought in by the end of the call. Like, we talked for a full hour, and I had my list of questions and you answered them so like professionally and deftly. And I was like, "Well, okay, you gave me a lot to think about, right?" And so I went away for like about a
And
month.
let's just
And
say this real quick. She was completely
yeah,
stone faced. You see Amy today, she's all smiles, she's all laughs, she's all that. This was Amy.
I
I don't
was.
think she ever cracked she's in a car. I don't think she ever cracked a smile, not once. I'm
No,
like, "Ooh, this lady is tough."
she didn't get the right, I didn't
She's
get the
good.
right impression. But yeah, like I said, I was not having the best day. But you were great, and you were so like just so intelligent. You could tell that you knew your stuff. I felt like you
Yeah.
knew your stuff. So I brought my husband into it, like a month later. I thought about it, and I said he helps me, with business side things and doing like a lot of the books and tech. So I said I think we should meet with her, And if you think I'm a tough customer, I mean he is a very skeptical guy. So
So okay,
yeah,
so yeah.
after we met you, it just was, obvious that it was the right group to finally get us to the finish line.
And he
We
read
never
Exit Rich too. And just correction here, it did take about 9 months to get to the process of where you guys hired me. It was
it
a
did
while.
it did take
They
9
both did read the book. Yes, go ahead.
it did take 9 months. With that being said, once we hit the ground running, okay,
Yeah.
and we went to market, okay, end to end, 4 months to be exiting.
And the
4
end.
months. That was insane because I just wanna say, like
Especially for 6 locations.
right, right, especially for that, and it was just the process itself was so seamless. We just, like, got right to work. Now, when Michelle valued the business, I also wanna say this, Kevin and I had a figure in our head, right? And Michelle came back at more than double that figure. I mean, because she went through the valuation process of the 6 Ps, and she rated us on a scale for every single one, and she felt strongly that it was higher than what we had even ever imagined. And I remember Kevin's reaction to that was, "No, that's not possible." And I was like, "They'll do their job, okay?"
Let them do their job. I know he kept saying, "That's not possible." I don't believe it.
Exactly. Yeah. And so you
Yeah.
guys really did a great job of extracting all the value out of it. But, it was just more than that. Like, when we first did the valuation and you went to market, you said, "Just forget about us. I'll get back to you." And this was like in February, maybe beginning of March. All right. Like maybe March 1st, we listed the business. And you were like, "I'll get back to you." So I was thinking in my wildest dreams, right now it's August, and I was thinking by October, if I had one person like interested, I'd be thrilled. Well, in 10 days, they came back to us and they had 6 offers in 10 days and high quality buyers, high quality. The people we met, it was like we couldn't even pick them because they were such good quality. It was pretty astonishing. I was so impressed, Michelle. It was really something else.
Thank you. We ran an auction process, a silent auction process in Connecticut. And sometimes we run silent auctions and sometimes we don't. It depends upon the market. In Connecticut, there's probably 20, 30, 40, 50 buyers from one business. And the problem is most of them don't even get a shot at an LOI because by the time they get to the table, they've already got an LOI in hand. So I told my team we're running a process in Connecticut because we want everybody to have a fair shot. So I gave everybody 2 weeks to get their bids in. 2 weeks, that's it, 2 weeks. And then we did not set up any calls except for one. We set up one call, but then we didn't set up any other calls until we presented all the offers. And I think when we set up that one call, Amy, we did have an offer for you. So we never set up a call with Amy without having LOIs in hand. And so we set up one call, determined they're not a good fit. And we bought 2 other buyers that were really, really good fit and set up those calls. She didn't meet with any of the other buyers. It was very streamlined. And obviously it was their choice. Go ahead, Amy.
And it was hard to pick because, they were, like I said, great, great buyers. And I mean, not only that, they were coming in above asking price, which was also blowing our minds.
So I
So
doubled the valuation from what they wanted, and
Mhm.
because we ran a process and brought multiple buyers to the table, we got offers. Almost all of the offers were higher than the asking price, and they ended up well, you go ahead and finish, Amy.
Oh, well, I mean, we ended up like I said, we picked, a great, team to take over. We're really happy with them. We really clicked with them. I thought they had great energy and great vision and just were the right fit, and we just felt super confident and we went for it. And, there were a couple of sticking points, along the way, but for the most part, like, it was a pretty, straightforward transaction. 4 months is astonishingly
It
quick.
is astonishing, and one thing I wanted to point out too is Amy asked us, "Who would you go with?" Do you remember that, Amy?
Sure did, yeah.
And I told him exactly who I would go with because
Yep,
that person was the most likely to close.
yep.
That
The
person had the
person that's
cash
gonna
to buy
close.
the business if they couldn't get funding in place.
Yeah, it was just amazing. But the thing about working with your team and with you is that even though you have a lot on the go, it was just very impressive. We always felt like we were your only client and favorite client. And you really give a very personalized and, very, very quick to respond. And, with any doubts or issues, which, there's highs and lows when you're going through a sale, very emotional, it's very stressful. And you guys are good about like talking us off the ledge too, when we needed it.
I had to make a few calls to talk to you and Kevin off the ledge.
Yep, yep, it's part of the process though, it's just how it goes.
Yeah, and like she said, there was some stickiness along the way, but we got through it
Yep,
and we managed all the due diligence. Right.
yep, no, it was
Good.
great.
Anything else you'd like to add?
I mean, I think it was a great decision, and I'm just so happy that it went by so quickly. I mean, we were able to close at the beginning of the summer, and just for my personal life, that was just like the perfect timing. And I'm just astonished with how smoothly and quickly everything went, and it was just very successful. And I am so grateful for you.
So thank you. And you and Kevin helped make it easier because you did operate on all 6 Ps, number 1. Number
Thank you.
2, you both were coachable. I don't like it when people hire me to sell their companies and they start to tell me how to do my job. If you're one of
Hmm.
those entrepreneurs that wanna hire me, don't hire me. Hire the guy that never sold her business. And, I've got a client right now is like, "Well, you need to do this and you need to do that." Okay. I don't know how to run salons, but I know how to sell them.
Yeah,
And so we're always looking for those coachable clients who understand, who are realistic. It's our job to get you more money. We got Amy and Kevin more than they ever thought possible.
yeah,
But they made it easy because they were coachable. They listened. They gave us everything exponentially. And they were very attentive while running the company and taking all their vacations. They were very attentive. And so they help the process because I can only do so much. I need a cooperative sellers.
yeah. I mean, I think we were such a good team too. And like after I sold it, I wrote this article about selling in the salon world because it is unusual actually in the salon world to exit you know, successfully and especially this much so.
Well, let me
And so
explain why real quick.
yeah.
A lot of salon owners are revenue generators. So if the
Mm,
salon
mhm,
owner is working in a business generating revenue, then many times that income comes off the top because those clients are not obligated to stay with that salon and many of them will leave.
mhm,
So it's much more difficult to sell salons that are salon owners. Not impossible. I don't want you to listen to this and say it's
yeah.
impossible because with us, there's nothing impossible.
Mhm.
Go ahead, Amy.
Well, and after I put that article out, just saying what had happened, and I launched a coaching service called Your Salon Pal. And I had some people reach out to me as a result of that and say like, how did you do that? But what was really interesting, how did you do that? I want to do that too. But what's really interesting, is that sometimes talking to people, they'll be like, what am I going to do next? And I'm like, you're going to do whatever you want. Like
So
that's
this
it.
is important golden nugget. And I don't want to cut you off, but I just got to say what
No.
she just said is another huge, 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 and I want a huge point that I want you to take note of. Business owners will never exit their business until they have figured out their next chapter, their new beginning. And Amy had that. So Amy's had that figured out. Go ahead, Amy.
I loved the part of my business, especially like growing people's careers. And, when I was running a salon, I really was always looking for a mentor myself. And so now that I have 10 years of experience and I've exited, that's what I'm kind of working on.
Multi-million-dollar exit. Let's get that in there. Go ahead.
And I really, want to focus on that. So I already have some clients that want to focus on exiting, and some clients that are focusing on growth. And so that's, helping people achieve what they want to do with, what I've done, and achieve their dreams. That's like really where I'm headed. And it's just really a lot of fun so far. And I'm just enjoying it. And I'm so grateful for Michelle for helping me get to the finish line so I could start my next thing, because without you, I wouldn't have.
Thank you. What's the name of it?
Your Salon Pal.
So Your Salon Pal is the name of her new company.
Mhm.
Think about this. If you're thinking about exiting, think about your new chapter, your new beginning. So Amy and I have some exciting news. Not only did I sell her company, not only are we friends, but now we're going to be partners. What are we doing, Amy?
We're writing a book.
Not just any book, Amy.
Exit Rich Salon.
Exit Rich Salons.
Yes.
So writing a book called Exit Rich Salons, and Amy is contributing. My book is there, Exit Rich, but she's contributing all of her experience of how to build not just a business, guys, but a business that is sustainable, scalable, not owner dependent, that you can sell for millions and millions of dollars. So Amy and I are so excited, so delighted that we're going to be joining forces and writing Exit Rich Salons.
Yep.
It is the second book to the Exit Rich. So I can't be more thrilled. And I couldn't even ask for a better partner, a better person, because Amy is wonderful. She's honest, she's ethical, she's trustworthy. If you're a salon owner listening, hire her. Then she's going to send you to me. And then she's going to send you to me to finish the job.
That's right. That's right. You got it. You got it, girl. Thank you so
All right.
much.
Any last minute golden nuggets for building a sustainable, scalable, sellable business? Any last minute thoughts you want to leave with our listeners?
No, I just want to, other than that, I really think you're the real deal, Michelle. And I really appreciate you having me on today and having this conversation. And it's just been such an amazing ride, and I'm looking forward to the future.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure having you on. And, I love it when my clients can become my friends. I remember telling you this story where I was in franchise development, franchise sales. I would never, when I was traveling, I never stayed in a hotel. I stayed at their homes. So I like to build not just businesses to sell, but I like to build relationships that last a lifetime. So
Wow.
thank you all so much for listening, joining Exit Rich. I told you, as I always do, we always underpromise and overdeliver. Lots of golden nuggets, lots of content. Make sure you subscribe to Exit Rich Podcast. Please share this with your network. Your network equals your net worth. Make sure you get this message out. Make sure everyone you're in contact with listens to this podcast. And also go back and listen to yourself, because it's like drinking from a fire hose. Till I see you next time on Exit Rich. Thank you. Plan your exit.
Thanks for listening to the Exit Rich podcast. Don't forget to check out Michelle Seiler Tucker's Build to Sell Blueprint books and Exit Rich, along with more blogs, videos, and resources at exitrichpodcast.com. Be sure to connect with Michelle on Facebook or LinkedIn, and stay tuned for her next episode by subscribing in your favorite podcast player.